I'd like to welcome you to our Genesee generating station for some exciting Alberta government announcements. I especially want to welcome Minister of Environment and Parks, Jason Nixon, and Steve Mcdonald, CEO of Emissions Reduction Alberta, as well as our media guests who are online today. To begin, I wish to respectfully acknowledge that the land on which we are gathered is Treaty 6 territory, traditional lands of First Nations and Métis people. Since 1989, Genesee has reliably powered not only the daily lives of Albertans, but supported the industries that are the heart of the Alberta economy. At Capital Power, we are working to transform our energy system to support a low-carbon future for generations to come. And Genesee is the hub of innovation that will use and test commercial applications of new technologies driving this change. We're proud to be headquartered here in the province of Alberta that's leading the charge on energy transformation, emissions reduction, and actively supporting the bright minds and innovators building a sustainable future for us all. I would like to now invite Minister Nixon up to the microphone.
Well, thanks, Brian, for that introduction. Thanks for having us here today. It is a pleasure to be here today at Capital Power to announce support for job-creating projects that will help the province reach its environmental goals while increasing competitiveness and saving money for our industries. Alberta's government is building on a legacy of action on environmental, social, and governance matters. Whether it's oil sands producers reclaiming the land, as we've seen recently with Syncrude planting 11 million trees to date, or the groundbreaking work done by Emissions Reductions Alberta, who you'll hear from in a bit. The province and its largest industries are global leaders when it comes to big picture thinking on the environment. And the wind is messing with speech notes for sure. In fact, based on the Yale Environmental Performance Index, the Social Progress Index, and the World Bank Governance Index, the highest ranking oil producing countries in the world are Canada, Denmark, and Norway. Canada being at the top of this list is a testament to Alberta's decades of environmental leadership. We protect civil liberties in our province. We strictly regulate our industries. We develop world-class technologies. We are the best and getting better. A fantastic example of industry's commitment to innovation is right here. Capital Power Genesee's 3 plant is the first power generation facility in Canada to use supercritical combustion technology to reduce its emissions, and they use fabric filters to stop 99.8% of particulate matter from getting into the atmosphere. They are currently in the process of transitioning the Genesee units to 100% natural gas capability, including potentially repowering Genesee 1 and 2 to enable the most efficient, lowest emitting natural gas combined cycle units in Alberta, which could be converted to zero emitting generation in the future by applying carbon capture, utilization, and storage, or hydrogen. We're talking zero carbon natural gas. This is Alberta innovation in action. These results, though, would not be possible without the know-how and the inventiveness of Alberta. And it's exactly the type of project that Alberta's government aims to support through our Technology, Innovation and Emission Reduction Fund, or TIER. Some of you were in the room way back when I announced the TIER program launched in October 2019, and certainly a lot of things have happened since then. But one thing remains unchanged, even as the province is recovering from the triple whammy of a pandemic, oil price wars, and recent commodity price slump. We, Alberta, will not stop celebrating and supporting innovation in our cornerstone industries, oil and gas, obviously, but also agriculture, industries like concrete, cement, transportation, and forestry. We are proud of the amazing projects in all of these areas that have been supported by Emissions Reduction Alberta and other organizations through the TIER Fund since we formed government. We're doing more than ever to get Albertans back to work, make industries more competitive, and save industries money, all while reducing emissions today, Today is a new chapter in that story, Alberta's story of innovation. I am very pleased to announce that as part of Alberta's recovery plan, We're investing $750 million from the Tier Fund into programs that will create thousands of jobs, boost our economy, attract fresh investment, and build on the province's strong record on environmental and social governance matters. On its own, today's Tier Fund announcement will support up to 3,400 jobs. With investment from industry and other funding sources included, we're on track to support an incredible 8,700 jobs. Combined with the funding from industry and other levels of government, this will represent a $1.9 billion injection into the Alberta economy. We know our largest industries have an excellent track record when it comes to innovation and excellent environmental stewardship. We want the rest of the world to know that as well. We won't stop celebrating all of our industries and their accomplishments, no matter how many times the folks in Ottawa tried to tell us our business. This is our way forward. This is Alberta's way forward. We are empowering our world-class industry while protecting the environment. I would suggest that some of my federal counterparts have been letting ideological beliefs instead of expert advice guide some of their decisions on the environment file. They should be talking to the experts. And when it comes to Canadian energy, the experts are overwhelmingly Albertans. We can solve our environmental challenges and still maintain the industries that have supported Albertans and Canadians through good times and tough times. We can and will put folks back to work and protect our shared environment. We are showing the world how, here and now in Alberta. We're partnering with industries who are investing their dollars to reduce emissions, protect the environment, and keep Albertans working, rather than taking from the pockets of Alberta families and small businesses who are responsible for a fraction of the emissions in this province. Families that need to keep food on the table and small businesses that need to keep the lights on. Alberta industries are saving hundreds of millions of dollars through TIER compared to the previous government's carbon tax while achieving the same level of emissions reductions. This system, TIER, would not be successful without the entrepreneurial spirit of our province's industries and communities. In fact, TIER is set up to capitalize on our innovation. Combined with Alberta's world-class regulatory system, providing an efficient and predictable process for getting jobs built, environmentally friendly and economically beneficial projects are moving forward in Alberta each and every day. And the Alberta government is pleased to do our part using the industry-supported TIER Fund to back many of these projects. Alberta's government is also proud to work alongside organizations like the ERA, who share our vision of partnering with industries to promote innovative technologies that will help get Albertans back to work, attract new investment, and diversify Alberta's economy, all while growing our core industries, including oil and gas. To be clear, this support through TIER doesn't stop at the announcement that we made today, which will create almost 9,000 jobs and inject nearly $2 billion into Alberta's economy. In the coming weeks, I will announce a number of TIER-funded projects that create jobs, protect the environment, and keep our industry competitive, so keep an eye on that in the news. Alberta's government, though, made a promise. We made a promise to stand up for our industries. We made a promise to get Albertans back to work, and that commitment has not changed. To Albertans who work in our industries, we see you, we have your backs, and we won't stop fighting for you even as we meet or exceed our environmental goals. We won't strand you, and we won't strand our resources. There is a better way. There is the Alberta way. We are a province of innovators, and helping our world-class industries meet their environmental obligations while staying competitive is essential to getting our economy back on its feet and Albertans back to work. I want to thank Brian again and his team at Capital Power for hosting us this afternoon. And with that, I will pass this on to my friend Steve Mcdonald, the head of Emissions Reduction Alberta.
Turn that off. Thank you, Minister. I better bring this down. For including Emissions Reduction Alberta in today's exciting announcement, and for your leadership ensuring that TIER funds continue to position Alberta as a leader in demonstrating the central role the technology will play in the transformation to a lower carbon economy. And thank you to Capital Power for hosting us today. Brian and his team have been strong partners with ERA in advancing a number of innovative projects. Lately, there's been a lot of talk about building back better. The fact is, Alberta has been building better for years. This venue and the investments announced today are testaments to that reality. And so is the more than $600 million ERA has invested since 2009. Investments that have accelerated $4.4 billion worth of cleaner technologies. Investments that provide a clear line of sight from the carbon price paid by large final emitters to the solutions needed to achieve continued economic and environmental success for Alberta. Included in the announcement today by Minister Nixon, ERA is committing almost $10 million to advance carbon capture, utilization, and storage technologies. Today's announcement highlights how we are reaching beyond Alberta's borders to attract ideas and investments. Alberta has joined a global collective effort to accelerate technologies that cost-effectively capture and utilize CO2. Alberta is the only subnational invited to the Accelerating Carbon Capture and Storage Technology, or Act 3 initiative, which involves 17 countries, including the United States, the UK, and Germany. Alberta's $5 million contribution to the $50 million competition will help to identify carbon capture technologies with a strong potential for commercialization right here in Alberta. It will allow us to attract new world-class innovators to Alberta and support Alberta's innovators to access international markets. And we are collaborating with our trusted partners, the X Prize Foundation, another global leader investing in new technologies to benefit humanity. Through this new partnership, we are committing $3 million to Carbon Corp and $1.5 million to Carbon Upcycling, two of the finalists in the NRG COSIA Carbon X Prize competition. Carbon Corp's technology to convert CO2 into carbon nanotubes has incredible potential to create a wide range of value-added products. We are so pleased that Capital Power is partnering with us on advancing this technology. Carbon Upcycling, a Calgary-based startup, is using CO2 emissions to create nanoparticles that enhance everyday products like concrete, plastics, and batteries. These technologies and international collaborations build on Alberta's existing investments and create additional momentum toward commercialization. CUS initiatives offer incredible prospects for both new market growth and greenhouse gas reductions. They help us to increase the value of our natural resources and decarbonize energy use by capturing a waste stream and turning it into valuable products. Every credible pathways to a lower carbon future for the world include the scale-up and broad deployment of CCUS technologies. With today's announcement, Alberta is accelerating the innovation that will be the engine of growth for the next normal. Thank you again, Minister Nixon, and I'll turn it over to Brian so you can hear more about the contribution Capital Power is making to sustainable energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Capital Power is excited that Carbon Corp, also known as C2CNT, has received $3 million in funding for their world-leading carbon conversion technology. As a Carbon Corp partner, we see this technology as a game changer to support our journey to becoming net carbon neutral before 2050, and more importantly, to directly reduce CO2 in our air and to reduce emissions from a wide variety of industries. I believe in time, Carbon Corp's technology will significantly move the dial on climate change by itself. Carbon Corp is hosted by the NRG COSIA Carbon X Prize, as Steve commented on, but what is not known to any great degree is that it's actually taking place at the Alberta Carbon Conversion Technology Centre, located at our Shepherd Energy Centre, which we co-own with ENMAX. This unique government-funded centre, along with the Minister's Tier Fund announcement today, demonstrates our province's continued commitment to reduce emissions, boost the economy, and create jobs and opportunities for Albertans through innovation and collaboration. Last year, we announced the development of the Genesee Carbon Conversion Centre to be in operation on this site next year. This will be the world's largest and lowest cost production facility of carbon nanotubes. This Genesee site has always been a focus of innovation for Capital Power, as the Minister has described. Resulting from our 5-year Genesee Performance Standard program, these are 3 of the 4 lowest CO2 emissions per megawatt-hour facilities in North America. This year, we expect to apply for permits to allow us to repower Genesee 1 and 2 as early as 2023. We're planning this repower to not only support clean, reliable natural gas, but to be carbon capture and hydrogen ready. Later this year, we'll join Lehigh Hansen announcing further development of low-carbon cement by using fly ash from this facility. Genesee is a hub of innovation and a shining example of the low-carbon transformation taking place in Alberta, a transformation enabled and supported by this government. Thank you for joining us today. Stay healthy, and I'll now turn it back over to the Minister.
Thanks, Brian. And just before I open it up for questions, I should also mention, in addition to being hosted by Capital Power today, we are being hosted inside the riding of Drayton Valley Devon, and their MLA, Mark Smith, is here as well today, a great advocate for technology and for our industries who are leading the way in this province. Thanks for being here today for the announcement and your hard work on behalf of your constituents, Mark. And with that, I'll be happy to take some questions. We all will be happy to take some questions, I should say.
Okay, folks, I think we have a couple of people on the line. Do you want to put through the first caller, operator? Thanks very much.
First question is Emma Graney with the Globe and Mail. Go ahead, Emma.
Thank you very much. I have a couple of questions. I think this is probably for Minister, for Minister Nixon. In speaking about carbon capture there, can you talk a little bit more about the new industrial energy efficiency and carbon capture grant program that's happening there, and why it's important to partner globally with countries like Norway, the UK, the US? And then related, I'll throw this one at you too. How do you as a government combat the public perception of carbon capture as kind of it's seen often as an unwieldy and expensive technology, you know, particularly when you look over at what happened in Saskatchewan's Boundary Dam, which was like $500 million over budget and was broken. So there are my 2 questions there: global, the grant, and public perception. Thanks.
Well, I'll start with the public perception. I mean, the reality is that carbon capture, like any new technology, starts out expensive. And I would say, Emma, that in some ways we have an advantage. That Saskatchewan and other provinces moved earlier on that than us. We're able to overcome some of the being able to progress the development of technology. As Steve said, there's very few paths forward with any credible plan on GHG emissions that involves making sure that we still have hydrocarbons involved and our industries involved going forward. And let me be clear, Emma, for us, there's no way that we're going to strand those largest industries. And the reality is that we're looking for ways forward to meet our environmental obligations that will still allow us to be able to create work and have a great economy and be leaders across the world. And carbon capture is one of those things that we need to look at. I'm going to turn it over to Steve to specifically talk about the program side of the announcement. But I do want to be clear going forward that this is what we have said is a path forward. This is Alberta's vision versus the current federal government and others' vision when it comes to tackling this issue. We believe that the way forward is technology. We believe that we'll have to innovate our way out of this problem. Where other governments continue to think that they can tax their way out of this issue, we continue to find new ways to help technology succeed. Yes, sometimes technology in the beginning needs a little bit of work along the way, but we see a big future for carbon capture, and we see many of the economic issues already being overcome.
Thank you, Minister. Emma, the program announced today is targeted at the large final emitters and does have those dual purposes of investing in projects that are energy efficiency focused, so sort of the doing the same thing better projects, but also the second part is the carbon capture and storage, and that's doing the better things, the game changers, the limits and the process for application you'll find right on our on the department's website.
Emma, do you have a follow-up?
Actually, yeah, can you speak a little bit more, though, about why it's important to partner globally with, like, you know, for instance, the Norwegian-led the program there?
Yeah, Emma, the reality is the whole world is struggling with the same challenges that Alberta is struggling with, and there's bright minds and opportunities all around us. Nations are investing billions of dollars to advance the same solutions that Alberta is advancing, and by creating these partnerships, we don't replicate the mistakes of the past. We build on their expertise. Alberta has incredible facilities here, so we actually attract people from around the world to come to Alberta to de-risk their technologies, to scale them up, and to apply them to Alberta industries. And as I mentioned, Alberta has incredible innovators too, and by entering into these international partnerships, we expose Alberta companies and businesses to those international markets and allow them to actually create new markets and new opportunities to sell their products and services.
Awesome, thanks. Can we put through the next caller, please? Oh,
I would just add to that,
something to add.
exactly that from the Alberta government's perspective, our vision includes, of course, creating new technology that will help us meet our environmental obligations right here at home. But there's a huge opportunity from our perspective to be able to create other markets across the globe, be able to capitalize on the fact that we have the best and most innovative industry right here in Alberta, and there's opportunities there. And then ultimately, if the world is serious about dealing with GHG emissions, we're going to continue to stress that the solution to those problems is right here inside this province, of course, starting with our clean natural gas. And if we truly want to tackle these issues, Emma, we need to talk about it on a global scale.
Operator, can you please put through the next caller?
Next is Fletcher Kent with Global News. Go ahead, Fletcher.
Thanks, Minister. I'm not sure if it's a coincidence or not, but just as you're talking about looking for an Alberta way forward and talking about innovation, Alberta lawyers are arguing at the Supreme Court of Canada about the importance of provincial autonomy when it comes to dealing with the federal carbon tax. How do you see these sorts of programs fitting into some of that, the mindset that's sort of being argued before the Supreme Court, and the importance of that decision on the future of programs like this?
Well, I think that this just goes to reiterate our point, and the point of the Alberta government, which is that we are against the carbon tax. We fulfilled our commitment to Albertans, but the first piece of legislation that moved in through a United Conservative government was to remove the carbon tax. We will continue to fight the feds through the court system. We're very happy about the victory here at the Court of Appeals here in Alberta that made it clear that it's not constitutional for them to put a carbon tax on our economy or on this province. But at its core, our argument is that this is a provincial issue, that the federal government does not have jurisdiction. The Alberta government has never submitted that we would not handle our environmental concerns or that we don't have an environmental obligation. What we have said is that Alberta is best positioned to be able to handle that, and it is up to Alberta, and it is in fact our constitutional right to develop our resources our way. And so we submitted during the last election campaign a different process that we felt would work to do this, that would position Alberta in a spot where we could have a positive impact on the environment while still making sure that our industries could succeed. And that focuses on technology and innovation instead of taxing everyday Albertans. And so what I think that it certainly is a coincidence that we're just progressing on the same weeks, but what it really shows is that Alberta is going to continue with that plan, focusing on technology and innovation, actually reducing emissions, but still protecting our industries and protecting Albertans from an unnecessary carbon tax.
Do you have a follow-up, Fletcher?
Yeah, just curious on how critical you see this Supreme Court of Canada decision in Alberta's recovery from the primarily the COVID recovery and the oil price collapse recovery, and for Canada's recovery for that matter.
Well, I think both the Supreme Court decision that comes on carbon tax and on Bill C-69 are critical to the future of our province inside Confederation. The reality is that we will not tolerate, and the Premier has been clear, we will not tolerate a way forward that does not include hydrocarbons and our industries inside whatever the recovery plan is that the federal government has. And that second, we will continue to fight relentlessly to protect our constitutional rights as a province inside Confederation. But at the same time, we actually believe that we have a way forward on the environment. The industry believes that they have a way forward on the environment, and our government wants to be able to create an environment where they can succeed, where we can capitalize on the innovation that's already taking place in the industry, and we can move forward with realistic results. And lastly, I just want to be clear, from the Alberta government's perspective, and the Premier has been very clear on this in the last few days, there has to be a way forward for hydrocarbons. And the federal government needs to take that very, very seriously.
I think we have one more question. Operator, can you please put through the next call?
Next question is Colleen Underwood with CBC. Go ahead, Colleen.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I just am more wanting to clarify today's announcement. So it's the $750 million from the Tier Fund, and of that, we know specifically the amount being used in this carbon capture and storage technology. Is that right?
That's correct. So we're announcing today that we'll be using $750 million immediately over in this fiscal year, putting it into play right away into the economy on technology and innovation. We announced two investment portions of that $750 million today. I'm happy to turn it over to both Brian or Steve to be able to talk about that in more detail. In the coming days, we'll have more to say about where the rest of that $750 million is going. I also think it's extremely important to make clear that we have industry matching and other levels of government matching in this process, and we think what this whole announcement is about $1.9 billion that will go into the Alberta's economy to focus on environmental obligations, but at the same time creating a more competitive environment for our industries and being able to make sure Alberta leads the way forward.
Colleen, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, how much is in the Tier Fund in total?
The Tier Fund, roughly at this moment, this would basically liquidate the entire Tier Fund. We think that it is time to put all the money that is in place inside the fund to work. At the end of the day, it is industry money that they have contributed to that fund. Our commitment to the industry was that we would use it to be able to help advance the industry. I could think of no better time to use it when we're dealing with a significant economic downturn like this. This is an opportunity to be able to create jobs at the same time as dealing with some of the environmental innovation challenges that we have inside this province.
Excellent. Does anyone have anything to add?
Sorry. I just want to, are you going to build it back up again, or is then that it?
Well, the tier, we continue to keep our large emitters regulated here in the province. Large emitters were clear that's how they want it to be regulated. That won't change. And so our large emitters do not fall underneath the federal carbon tax. They stick with the tier program here. And yes, they will continue to make compliance payments going forward into the tier fund, which will be used for innovation and technology as was planned and laid out in the legislature when we created the fund. What's different here is there has been some money that built up in the fund over time, and we think that this is the time to get it out and in working for Albertans and on behalf of the industry.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.
I think that's it, folks.
All right. Well, thanks. Well, perfect.